Hello, good morning, good afternoon in some states. And this is where Queensland Daylight Saving Time lacks. So, thank you to everybody for joining us from your different time zones. I am here today with our amazing guest host, Angela McDonald. Now, as a few of you come into the room, I'm going to share a fun little fact with you. So, I'm Angela Shelton, and our guest is Angela McDonald. Not only do we share the same first name, we share the same birthday. And I think that's just crazy when you meet people like that in your life. Other than that, she is absolutely fantastic, and we're going to have a great time today. So, what I would love to do, a little bit of housekeeping for you all. Now, if you've been to an Answers webinar before, you'll know that we're recording so we can share this afterwards. We're going to be running the Q&A and the chat box. So if you have any questions as you go along, please drop them into either of those channels. I'll be monitoring those today with my colleague, Emily. And of course, we're going to have some time at the end for Q&A. So thank you so much for coming along. And I would just like to give a refresher for anybody who doesn't know me. I'm Angela Shelton, the CEO of Answers for Associations. We are a very powerful hub of association professionals who've come together for a joint purpose to help support each other and problem solve cross industries. So today we're going to be talking about membership renewals, but before we do that, I would just like to provide acknowledgement of country from all the different places that we come together today. I'd like to acknowledge our leaders, past, present, and emerging, which is all built on community. And because of that community spirit, we are running this webinar series to highlight all the amazing things that we're seeing our association colleagues doing right now. Because we know when we can share those stories with you and have insights from someone like Angela McDonald, it's an opportunity for you to see what is possible, who's doing what, and how you can be doing it better, and what support is out there. I would now like to officially welcome Angela McDonald, who is the Director of Optimum Contact. They are an Australian outbound call centre based here in beautiful sunny Brisbane. She has spent many, many years working with associations and working on campaigns around data cleansing, member call campaigns. She's pretty much the know-all of all things membership. So on that note, Angela, I am going to hand it over to you. But before we kick off, I've got a question up on the screen. So if I could get Emily just to pop that up for you, I would love to know, how are you feeling about your membership renewal campaigns at the moment? Because we know that a good many of you are right in the hot seat, and we thought it would be a little bit fun just to get a feel for where you're at. So Angela can then help provide some insights and maybe just some soothing herbal teas for anybody that's, in that crazy, crazy spot. So we'll just give everybody maybe another 10, 20 seconds. All right, it's looking good. So Emily, do you want to share the results with everybody? Let's have a look at these together, Angela, because we had a little bit of fun with these answers. So we've got a couple of people who are feeling like renewal rock stars. Congratulations, that is amazing. Yeah, and I'm very relatable to the second one, running on caffeine and optimism. Well, there you go, Angela. I'm going to hand it over to you to go forward and chat about some practical tips and strategies.
Thank you very much. Wonderful to be here and nice to see everybody's smiling faces. I'm really interested to meet at some point throughout the presentation today the person that is one email away from hibernation. I hear you and I feel you. It's wonderful to join everybody today. We're covering the topic of maximising membership renewals, and we'll cover some strategies to engage and retain members. Now, we fit in the space, as Angela described, as an outsourced solution provider to associations, small, medium and large, where we act as an adjunct to their teams. So we had the benefit of seeing loads of things that work really well, and some things where you have a couple of eyebrow raised moments. And I'm also going to share with you today some information that I've received from my personal associations, my groups that I've been a member of, to show you what's happening out there in terms of member connection strategies. So let's dive in. We're specifically going to cover membership engagement cycles, which is something that you'll all be very familiar with, but we'll bounce through that. But mainly we're going to be touching on when you should reach out. You can, maybe send an invoice to somebody sometimes and they complain that they only hear from you when you want money. And other people might complain that you're overloving them. So we'll touch on that. We're going to talk about data integrity, and this is huge at the moment. We're working with a number of organisations who are in the process of changing systems or preparing to change systems in the new year. And we've identified some common ground there in terms of data integrity. So I'm going to share some learnings with you there. And then we're going to talk about the renewal process and how we might make it easier or easiest to help our members renew. So shall we dive in? Excellent. Okay, so this is a very formal definition of what member engagement or membership engagement is: building lasting relationships, maintaining meaningful communication between associations and their members to keep them informed, engaged, and inspired to stay involved. What we're really trying to do is make them sticky, capture their attention, and make the organisation that you're involved with a meaningful part of their life. So I think we need to ask, how involved are we as an organisation in their lives? Are you essential to how they operate, whether that be work or personal passions? Or is it something that they think about often? And do they understand your goals and how they can contribute to them, and vice versa? The idea, of course, is to build a lasting connection and provide value and keep members engaged to ensure retention and a long-term relationship. Great. All right, Angela, you've got the keys, so if you could jump to the next slide. Thank you. Sorry, back one. Thank you. We had a little technical issue earlier today, and Angela's driving the screens for me, Golden Book style, if anybody's old enough to remember that. What we're going to touch on is something that, again, you're all very familiar with, and that is the member engagement cycle. And I've kept it really simple. We've got acquisition and we've got retention. We start with awareness. We look at recruitment and onboarding of that member. And then we're going to deep dive a little more on engagement, renewal. And as part of that engagement and renewal, we're looking for growth and some post-renewal love, no set and forgets there. And if somebody does decide that it's not right for them right now, we're going to have a chat about reinstatement and how that could work for you. So in an ideal world, any new member would immediately get it. They'd grasp the organisation's purpose, leading to endless renewals and referrals. In reality, though, people join for different reasons, and the members' motivation might shift over time. Certainly, I suppose the biggest example of that for us all was COVID. That put a lot of pressure on people, and I think in some sectors it's pressure that's still being felt. There's engagement levels that can be unpredictable, and members might sometimes be distracted or even dissatisfied with the position of the organisation and how that fits in with their personal feelings or politics. So the key to success, of course, is to be focused and effective in our member engagement. Now, engaged members interact really regularly and find value in the relationship. And to create that, you need a solid plan. You need to put in a lot of effort. You need to be creative and committed to the purpose. A budget would be helpful, but I know in conversation with many of you, sometimes we've just got to bootstrap it and create something wonderful from nothing. And we're all very creative and inventive in that way. think Angela touched on it in the invitations to join the session today when we were talking about engagement and when you should have the renewal conversation. And it's a conversation that she and I have had often. My position is that it should start the day that they sign. That's when they start to measure the value of their investment and their contribution to the member community. They'll have a little think about what's in it for me as they go through the cycles. So those first impressions really matter, and that onboarding piece is really critical for making a lasting impact. You can help new members discover top resources and reinforce their decision to join. And you can do that by maybe solidifying the engagement element through making sure all of their contact details are correct, having a conversation with them to make sure that their preferences are understood and their reason for joining, and then help drive them to where to find that information within your community. Welcome kits are nice, and that nowadays doesn't have to be something that's tangible or something that's mailed. I know one organisation that does a really nice webinar welcome program to guide everybody through their services and systems to make their experience better. And another that is really great at connecting with volunteer mentors. So say for younger members, that can make an immediate impact on not only their experience with the association, but also within their career, which could help with that stickiness as well. A personal point of contact. So one organisation we work with calls it a member success advocate that can provide to the member maybe a welcome phone call or similar for a human connection. There's another organisation we work with that makes a point of having a quick coffee catch up with a new member via Teams or similar, or Zoom. And that's a nice personal connection early on. With those sorts of things, you're making a genuine and early connection. And that, again, that goes towards solid retention. Surveys are really important. We've experienced organisations that conduct a welcome email/survey. And again, that's a way for them to understand the member, set their personal preferences to make sure that their journey with the organisation is a good one and delivers on what they're looking for. Now, those sorts of tools and techniques for connection have evolved. And again, I circle back to COVID because I think we started to embrace and use a lot more of those during that time. In the current economic climate, it can be difficult for people to not just communicate the value proposition, but make sure that the loyalty expectations haven't shifted on either side. We've really got to adapt to stay relevant. And we can touch on that a little bit more as we go through. There's so many wonderful benefits for different organisations, depending upon your sector. So I'd be introducing the valuable perks like discount programs early on, everyday value items that people would ordinarily spend money on within their business or within their employment cycle could be really helpful right now. And that saving could be the difference for your membership fee. Things like insurance, safety gear, if they're a tradie or similar, tools and vehicles come up often as well as perks that people like. The more they use the benefits that you've created, of course, the more they're likely to stay and be engaged with you. Now, we work in a really dynamic, fast-paced space. And what I've discovered is not, a lightning bolt moment, but member-based organisations and the people that they support love tech, and they're communicating through lots of different channels to support them and their needs. Things like email, social media, SMSs, and apps cover off regular touch points to help members stay engaged and informed. Now, apps can be polarizing for some people. Some people love them, some people don't. And just quietly, I have a bit of a fascination with Etsy. And of course, as somebody who's engaged with Etsy, I get lots of push notifications through the app to encourage me to have a peek. And I must admit, I do that on my way home from work. But anyway, your push notifications can encourage members to connect with permissions, of course, and they can set how often they would like to hear from you to make you stay front and centre in their lives, and maybe a quick check on the bus as they're heading home like I do. Online communities foster an emotional engagement as well. So communication with their peers, with their mentors, and somebody else that just is going through the same pain or strain that they are at that time. There's one allied health sector client that we work with that has very specific special interest groups that build really strong connections, and those people have been parts of these groups and are very active in the space. Now, when I say active, they fuel each other in terms of generating content and contribution and sharing knowledge, which is all of the things that you want. It encourages members to interact and engage with each other and builds that long-term loyalty and friendship, not just with the organisation, but with each other as well. So hopefully those touch points around engagement spark some inspiration for you. And in the notes section, if you want to pop a question down or pop some information down, I'd love to talk about what else you do. We've touched on some really quick things around welcome packs, welcome phone calls, a mid-cycle connection call to make sure that they're still finding everything that they're looking for, hey, can we check and we've got your data up to date message. All of those sorts of things are just nice little touch points to make sure that they know that you're there. Excellent. All right. Shall we move on to the next slide? Angela, you're already there. Thank you. So I want to talk about data and data integrity. And this is a space that we're doing a lot of work in right now, as I mentioned at the start, where we're helping organisations prepare for transitions to new databases. So we're looking at centralising systems, we're looking at data audits, and we're looking at ways in which people can help you stay on top of things. I particularly chose this photograph for the slide of the time is always now, because member data is such a shifting sand. It may be right one day and it may be out of date the next. So the more tools, systems and strategies you have in place to help you maintain the data, the better. When we're doing a data cleansing program, we work very closely with our client to set goals. And the reason we do that is obvious. We want to make sure that we achieve what we set out to achieve, whether it's to improve communications accuracy, better segmentation with the members, or to even comply with legal requirements. All of those things are really important. And we need to choose what specific data you want to clean. So is it email addresses, phone numbers, membership status, addresses, all of those sorts of things we need to identify first. One of the challenges, and we've spent a good number of weeks with one client now, is that they're moving from one quite basic system to another system that has loads of bells and whistles. But of course, the data headers are not the same. So we've spent a good bit of time defining what information should be in each section and mapping it to the correct place in the new system to avoid any misfires in terms of data location or what the data is to be used for. That's been a big project, several big projects actually. So What we've done also, aside from identifying and defining and mapping all of the data fields, we've been looking at identifying common problems in databases. And having been on a number of sort of roadshows connecting with association member managers, it's really interesting to hear that it's a problem for everybody. And that's the good old duplicate. So we need to decide on how we're going to identify and then deal with the duplicates within the system. It could be that someone's a member and they've used their formal name, which might be Thomas, for example, yet somewhere down the track he's registered for an event as Tom, and then a colleague might have registered him for something else and not realise that he is actually a member, where Tom or Thomas is now missing out on CPD points, which are important to his career. So finding those duplicates are really important. We use software, of course, to do that, to identify the records that appear more than once. We also set rules to decide what counts as a duplicate. So same email, phone number, address, and then we establish how to either remove the duplicates or merge the information. And the reason I labour that around delete or merge is that you could miss out on those CPD opportunities or miss out on significant milestones for the members' connection with you, like their member join date. That's a really important one. So think about that as you clean through the system. You can validate emails to check for syntax errors, so missing @ symbols or invalid domains, hello Yahoo, or inactive and bounced emails. And hopefully your CRM or your external system will give you a good record for anything that bounces so that you can maintain your data. Phone numbers are interesting when we talk about data hygiene, and there are so many unique ways for people to put a telephone number within a system, with spaces, no spaces, with country codes, without country codes, or STD prefixes. The idea is to decide on a format and stick with it and make sure that everybody in the team does as well. Easier said than done, but we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute as well. For validating addresses, there's lots of different tools available. We use a subscription-based tool that gives added elements of data information, but things like smutty streets could be helpful in making sure that the physical address is accurate and is recorded. You might have those outlying streets that could be in one suburb or the next. It's an opportunity to fill in any missing data, first names, last names, salutations, member status, if that's important, their expiration date, and fill them in. And even though we do a lot of this kind of stuff with tools and software, a fresh pair of eyes to spot check is a good idea as well, just to pick up any weird formatting and correct that. Data enrichment is one of my favourite things to do. I'm a bit of a data nerd. We have somebody on today who I had a recent discussion with, and we almost out-nerded each other. But anyway, when we're talking about data enrichment, you can use a third party to help with job titles, company names, social media links, or for your corporate members to wash ABN data, or even apply ANSIC codes that might help you better understand your members and where they're coming from and some of the risks they might be faced with. When you enrich your data to create a more accurate member profile and improve the audience segmentation, so your targeting, it again enriches that experience for them. We have had some experiences in supporting clients recently around data breaches and cyber attacks. So obviously your compliance around data protection is incredibly important. Data protection isn't a set and forget. It's something that should be tested for penetration testing all of the time. And I think nowadays the majority of organisations would have some type of cyber insurance and cyber training. Even the basic cyber warden training would be a good idea. I can't stress enough as well that you should make sure that your third-party suppliers are across the requirements for those types of securities. Make sure they've got robust systems in place and that they're considered and compliant with the way in which they manage your data. It's your biggest asset. And there's a world of pain should there be any breaches. So check on security and compliance of third-party providers. I want to talk about automation. So you can set a regular cleanse schedule and check for monthly and quarterly timeframes to do that. A lot can change over those periods, and you can integrate those little reminders with your CRM to send some information out. I'm going to share with you some that I received recently. I'm a member of two professional organisations, and one that I like to receive information from. And I'll share with you the correspondence that I've been receiving. I'm going to harp on a little bit around the data format policy. It should be a data hygiene requirement and a bit of a KPI for everybody to load the data in as is required to make sure that you have everything in place when you need to send an email marketing piece to all of the CEOs within your database, or to all of the membership managers within your database, or all of the business owners within your database, or all of the people that are responsible for learning and development. Unless you've got your segmentation right, you're not going to be able to easily identify those people. And I get that we get busy and that sometimes we cut corners just to get the job done. But without a guideline, people will make up their own rules. It doesn't have to be war and peace. A data format policy can be a one-pager, but it will help to start to change the behaviours and the ownership of making sure it's done right first time. I think it's really important as well that you update members and let them know that you're going through a cleanse. And a lot of the clients that we're working for who are getting ready to do the data migration to new systems are letting their clients know that, the cut across is this date. We'd love your up-to-date data in our system before we merge across. And that continuous improvement is really important. So as the photograph says on the slide, the time is always now. And I guess the time will also be and tomorrow and the next day and the next day. We've got loads of tools available to us. We've got CRMs like Salesforce, HubSpot, Zoho. A lot of our clients use IMIS, Memnet, Wild Apricot, and Membis are some of the ones that we come across. SwiftFox as well is one that a lot of people are starting to use. So our CRMs are becoming really important to the way we communicate with our members because of the built-in data management tools they have available, especially duplicate detection. That's a favourite of mine. Email validation systems, you could use Zero Bounce or Never Bounce, or even some of your MailChimp programs will give you details around which emails are working and which are not. You can use Clearbit or Full Contact for adding extra details to member profiles. And as I mentioned, there's subscription-based data that you can have access to as well. For one of our clients, they've got an aging member population, and it's really important to understand the socioeconomic impacts on the member. And they then decide whether or not they should be contacting them. So we have access to data that helps with that as well. So a clean, compliant database ensures better communication with your members, fewer data errors, lower legal risks, which is incredibly important. I can't stress that enough, and improves the performance of your engagement overall. Why? Because it's going to give you higher email open rates. It's going to get better targeted campaigns. Using data, I worked with an organisation that wanted to switch people over to DD, direct debit from their accounts to cover fees. And the marketing team had done a bit of a scattergut approach. It was nice, it looked good, and it achieved about 5% return or take up. What we identified with good use of data was a certain profile of member that used DD, was happy to use DD, never had payment fails, and we were able to apply those behavioural traits across those people that hadn't transferred to DD. And we were successful in that first campaign of converting 18% of the recipients. So we jumped from 5% to 18% in that first run, which I think is a good turnaround. So you need to protect your member data, keep things compliant and streamlined, and communicate your efforts. Now, if you don't mind, Angela, would you share, please, the documents that I've provided for, thank you very much. Okay, so I mentioned that I was a member of 2 professional organisations, and there's one organisation that I like to receive information from. I wanted to show you how different organisations are communicating with their members around membership data and how to collect it and connect with it. Now, I said 3. The reason I'm not showing you the details for the other party is because they didn't send it. What they sent me was an invoice only. And it made me think about my magazine that I received from them, how skinny that's been lately, how the content has been a bit offbeat and not hitting the mark in terms of what I've been experiencing now. And I guess it was a bit of a legacy membership in that I'd had it since 2009 when I started my business, but it wasn't serving me anymore. It's interesting, since cancelling the membership, I haven't heard from anybody, and I would have hoped or would have liked to receive a phone call from somebody in the membership team, or maybe even the newly appointed CEO, to have a chat about why, as a member for just under 16 years, I chose to finalise that relationship now. But there are some organisations that are out there and they're doing it well. So the document on the left-hand side of the screen comes from my professional membership organisation. It's pretty straightforward. It wants me to get the most out of my membership. It encourages me to log on and shows me how, and asks me to check the data that's relevant to me to make sure that they still know who I am and that my profile's up to date. What didn't fit on the screen is a little value proposition statement that they provided at the bottom, which highlighted, if my data was up to date, all of the things that I would be entitled to access. Now, the interesting thing for me is that I can, with my points now, proceed through the certified executive stage within my organisation. And I thought I was way off, but no, I am now, that might be my next step with that group, to go through the certification piece. The other is from an accounting firm, BDO, and at some point I have been added to their mailing list, and I quite like the information that comes through. But I wanted to show, the sort of chalk and cheese of the communication and its style. It's a little bit, warmer, friendlier, talks about what's relevant to me, talks about their new look and what that means for me, lets me know that I might have missed an email from them before and that I really needed to manage my preferences now, or I'd miss out on what's next. So there's an example of what I've received. Now, in terms of timing as to why I'm sharing these with you now, I've received both of them just this week. So it's nice to see organisations doing an end of year cleanup of data as we come to that end of play for 2024. It's going to put them in really great stead for next year. Now, conscious of time, so we'll move on to the next piece. And again, we're talking about data and records. We'll just touch through this really quickly, but we're keeping details up to date. We're looking at membership dates. This is a big flag that I wanted to chat with you about. If you're one of the organisations that's preparing or thinking about changing your member management system, then just be conscious of the member since state. We're doing a lot of work and it's a bit of a manual thing for a couple of organisations because their member since state has been polluted. It's not accurate. It is more reflective of when they moved into that last member management system as opposed to when the member first engaged with them or joined. The disappointing thing about that for members of this organisation is that they have a digital badge process. Who doesn't love a good badge? But they're missing out on their tenure badges and the recognition for their contribution and connectedness to the association because of a data error. So I wanted to highlight that one. Member dates, be conscious of that. Billing information is really important. I talked about the DD experience that I had been through. And I think we're going to ask you a little survey question in a moment around the way in which your members pay and the regularity of when and how they pay and when your renewal cycles begin and end. Membership history, we touched on that before as well with our Tommy example of the member who may be hiding in there under different profiles. So keep a lookout for that as well. So here we are at our question. We've got a little poll for you again. Emily, are you going to control the poll? Thank you. Oh, you're already jumping in. Thanks, everybody. It's interesting to see a few organisations moving from calendar year to anniversary date for renewals. It means a lot more admin for the organisation and for the people, but it can mean more consistent cash flow and it can mean that the membership's a bit more affordable and easy to manage. Gosh, neck and neck, a third there. And your payments are managed annually. So financial year, I understand, and it's actually a really good timing to get over one of those objections to renewing, and that is that I can't afford it right now. If you're going to be able to pay for it at the end of the financial year and do your tax return really quickly as a business-related expense, that could come back to you very quickly. I'd be interested for our monthly people to know how many payment fails they experience. Thank you, everybody, for sharing that. Let's jump into streamlining the renewal process. And again, conscious of time, and I can see a few hands raised there. So thank you. We'll jump into Q&A in a moment. When we're talking about the renewal process, we've touched on it a little bit as well. So I guess this is more a snapshot screen, but we need to automate the renewal reminders. Personally, I hope that those reminders aren't just invoices because that makes it very hard to argue that that objection of I only hear from you when you want money. Timely notifications so people can get organised, have the conversation with their managers around who's going to pay is a good one as well. Flexible payment options and timing can help. I know certainly within that allied health space, it helps people who can sometimes be on lower incomes manage their membership and stay connected. Quick, easy and online is really helpful, and personalised messages are beautiful. I personally don't like receiving emails or correspondence that says dear member, or worse still, dear bracket name bracket comma, or dear McDonald. That's another one I'm not thrilled about. So a bit of time on personalising the communication is always well received. I wanted to have a moment to talk to you about the what have you done for me lately? And this was my thought, about 3 o'clock one morning while I was preparing the presentation a week or so ago. That Janet Jackson song got stuck into my head. What have you done for me lately? When people send out an invitation to renew membership, I'm hopeful and love seeing a bit of a report card as to all of the things that you've achieved for them throughout the year. So whether that be through advocacy, connections, events, wage inquiries, if your organisation offers HR backup, like some of you do. All of those sorts of things would be important to share with the member base to show them that you're there and you are serving them, and to also talk about what your goals are going to be for the coming year and invite them to participate. The other thing is tools, tips and templates to help with costs and value conversations. This is going to be a big one coming up more and more while we go through economic pressures. We've been hearing on behalf of our clients, those that are a primary association connected to the person's employment, so they have to have it. There's a bit of a scrap going on between employers and individuals as to who should pay for that. The other part of that is whether or not a person as an individual, if they're having a secondary association connection, could continue to do that if they have to pay for themselves. So one of our clients does something that works really, really well. Firstly, they have a pack, and this is where I first saw it. They have a pack that helps their members ask for a pay rise, and it's almost a checklist of what they should consider and be prepared for in a discussion about a pay rise. The next part of that, in terms of the tools and tips and templates that they offer to members, is a document that helps them make a case for coming along to their annual conference. And that gets downloaded often with all of the reasons as to why the organisation, their company, will benefit by them attending a conference. I think maybe we could put some time and effort into creating a similar pack, if we haven't got them already, that helps the member with the conversation around that value proposition and why an employer should pay for a professional membership, and the benefits for that organisation. And I'd love to hear from people if you're already doing that, and how that's being received in the general marketplace. Lovely. All right, quickly wrap up. I'm just conscious of time. We have our key takeaways and summaries, and that is that we need to engage with members throughout the cycle, do it well, do it regularly, and make it personal. We need to leverage the data and the insights that come from the data and the story that it tells in terms of the members' engagement and connection to the organisation, and make that as personal as we can. And we need to streamline that renewal process so that it's easy for them to renew and stay connected with us. So our time together is coming to a close, and I wanted to thank you all for your contribution. I can see that we do have some hands raised and chat going on in the bottom. So Emily, if there's any questions or anything that you'd like to add, Angela, also, if there's anything that you'd like to add to the presentation, that would be awesome. Happy for anybody to contact me away from today's session to talk about your personal experiences or any challenges you might be having. And of course, our newsletter is available as well. I had one little thing I wanted to share with you, and this is my equivalent to, cat stories. But before we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with my puppy Ruby, she has incredibly engaging eyes, and I was absolutely hooked at first glance. But I know our membership teams will need more than a bit of cuteness to keep members engaged long term. And I hope that today's session sparked some fresh ideas and inspired some conversations that you can take back to your teams. A big thank you to Angela and Emily at Answers for Association for hosting, and to everybody who's participated. And I want to continue the conversation with you over on the Answers for Associations forum. So thanks again.